Okay, it is time to build a defensive game plan. That means scouting the offense, deal with what you see, and then try to help these coaches figure out what to do with their game plan. Should we blitz? Should we not blitz? What coverage should we play? But you people get the chance to watch television. And when you do, this is the kind of chart they show you on television. We would never show an NFL head coach or a coordinator this, and we would never show you that. We're not here to dumb down football anymore like the networks. We're trying to enlighten you, and this chart means nothing. John, what does your chart mean?
Well, Pat, what we're looking at, we picked one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's Aaron Rodgers, and this is his passing chart from 2014. And what we do is we break down the field in 5 vertical segments, and we also have pass depth segments that go from 0 yards, which are behind the line of scrimmage, bubble screen type stuff, to deep passes, which are 16 yards plus. And here it gives you a nice profile look, if you're a defensive coordinator, where Aaron Rodgers has frequency in terms of ball distribution and where he's most effective at delivering the rock.
You know, right off the bat, the chart tells me he distributes the ball very well. And we'll go back and think about that Seattle defensive chart where they were giving up 24% and he's throwing for 59. It's a battle of wits now. Right. He is really determined to go throw there anyway. So this chart starts to tell us things. You don't look at it once. You got to sit and study this kind of thing. And then I'm sure you get phone calls from the coaches as they're going through this if you can take them a little deeper than this chart.
That's exactly right. It's also important to point out that all this information we're looking at in the hands of the team, it's integrated directly to their game video. So not just looking at numbers and charts and graphs, they're looking at video coinciding with the numbers. We're also looking here at Aaron Rodgers' overall production in terms of touchdowns and interceptions. And the first thing that jumps out to me is if I look at the deep quadrant on the right-hand side, to your point, Pat, where one of his strengths are, if he was playing Seattle like he did in the NFC Championship last year, he had 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on the right sideline quadrant, 5 touchdowns in the right seam, 8 touchdowns in the short right seam.
Well, let's get Jim Miller back in here, our quarterback. I would like him to tell us what he'd do. If this was a chart you were looking at, what would you be reacting to?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Who's the touchdown maker for the Green Bay Packers? Jordy Nelson. And thanks to John Pollard and all his analytics, where does he line up? On the right side. He will play some X. He happened to do that versus the Seattle Seahawks. But what happens is when they get down into the touchdown and more or less the red zone area as well, they target Jordy Nelson over here for the touchdowns. And then what happens? Teams now play coverage. They'll go to a 2-high safety. Then what happens? It forces Aaron Rodgers to adjust. So think of Randall Cobb lining up, doing a drag across the field. Now you see 8 touchdowns there. Think of Richard Rodgers, the tight end, doing a middle read. That's where you see the 5 touchdowns. It all starts with Jordy Nelson, and Aaron Rodgers reacts off of it, and that's why you see all those touchdowns dominated to that side of the field.
Yeah, I like it, Jimmy, a lot. I like what I'm seeing from what their offense is. It presents challenges. You think in Seattle, how are they going to play this? That red strip right down there, Cam Chancellor, pay attention to that. Make sure you understand how you're going to play the coverages to him. And Jordy Nelson, that right there says to me, there's no defensive back they fear. We know he can throw the ball. We know he loves the whole football field. I want to pressure him, or maybe I don't want to pressure him. John, give me your research on what we should do about sending 4, 5, or 6 players after him.
Well, here at Real, we go one step further than traditional statistics. We don't just monitor blitz effectiveness for a defense or how well a quarterback handles it. We also monitor how many rushers are coming in that blitz. So we track 3 rushers, 4 rushers, 5 and 6+ man rushers by the defense, and then we take the traditional quarterback stats and the advanced metrics that we collect at Real, and we apply it to an assessment like this.
Yeah, well, Jimmy's going to have probably the same comment as me, but I don't see a reason for any 4, 5, or 6. Now, we're going to have some in a game, but he's 65, 67, 60%, quarterback ratings off the charts. It makes me think I should come back to you and say, why not a 3-man rush? Is there any hope that the 3-man rush against Rodgers is any better than those numbers?
Well, Pat, this is exactly the conversation we have with coordinators when we hand over this information to them. Actually, if you look at Aaron Rodgers' completion percentage on 3-man rushes, it goes down to 56%.
I would like to ask Jimmy why. My theory, Jim, on that is that the 3-man has so many people in coverage, it gets them to hold the ball.
You got 3 men rushing, there's 8 guys back in coverage. The windows are a lot smaller, and he's still an accurate passer and he's dangerous, but you're telling me it drops down to below 60%? Look what he does versus the blitz. That 6-man pressure, he guts you for 60%. That's where one of his highest rating is. So that's dangerous. It could lead to a big play. When you see 4-man, it's more zone. He's just picking you apart. Now, as Pat's mentioning, you're just putting more bodies back there in that zone, creates smaller windows, could make it more difficult for Aaron Rodgers.
It leads me to another question with you, John, while we have all of our viewers here, and that is, who can't handle the six-man pressure and who can. Now, we know Rodgers is in the group that can handle it. Who can't handle it?
Well, we have a group of quarterbacks. Here's the first surprise. Of the starting quarterbacks last year, Russell Wilson only completed 46.2% of his passes against six-man rushes. That was a surprise even to me.
Well, keep blitzing them is what I say. Anyway, they're breaking down the pressures. They're making those decisions to help these coaches decide, are we a four-man rush? Are we a three-man rush? What are we? John has been doing all the work for us.